When divorces tend to come up, children will react differently depending on usually their age category and, of course, their personality. It's not uncommon to hear that children will blame themselves for the divorce. Usually, they will wish that maybe they did something differently, or maybe they'll project that the divorce is a result of them not behaving or not being good enough to keep the family together. And as a result, a lot of that self-blame gets bottled up, and it just stews and it festers on the inside. Children then might have trouble focusing in school or during co-curricular activities, just because even if they're not consciously thinking about it, just in the back of their mind, they're going to be thinking about the divorce and why their parents can't be together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to show up in ways like that: attention span, anger, addiction to video games. But bottom line, we know that children are going to act out what is unresolved between mom and dad. What's unresolved between the parents is going to be acted out through the children. And
Definitely.
we forget that. We forget that when we're in the middle of a war and we
Mhm.
want to win.
That's absolutely true. I did read where younger kids will react differently versus adolescents versus teenagers. So there was an article where I read, it said younger kids would end up developing fears that if the parents stopped loving each other, then what's to stop the parent from loving the child? And so overall, if you're in a situation where you're going to be going through a divorce and you have those younger kids, what they're going to need most is the reassurance that they're always going to be loved and that this is not their fault. For adolescents, those are the kids that tend to blame themselves the most, believing that if they had done things differently, that maybe mom and dad would be willing to stay together. And they're trying to wrap their head around why mom and dad can't be together. And then for teenagers have all those hormones going through, they're going through puberty, and life is already a chaotic mess. And so adding on a divorce on top of that can lead them to be more angry. Sometimes passive aggression, or it could also be just active aggression. So it depends. And sometimes those teens may even go into the point of taking sides, trying to play detective and assess what's going on. Or they might just close up, bottle up, and detach themselves from everything to a point of numbness.
Yeah, there's so many hurts and wounds that happen during divorce to children that they're going to have to work out at some point in time. And if we can just assist them by really by being loving, because that's how a child's inner self worth is formed. It's by the attunement, firstly, of their mother and the attunement of their biological parents, that love and attunement that parents shower down on their child. And so hopefully that's not lost in a divorce, but something good to remember, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely very difficult as a child going through divorce, simply because they do carry that everywhere with them, and they lose the opportunity to really get that attunement that you were speaking of. I remember during the divorces I went through, where school was less of a priority. And for someone like myself, I've always been your typical A student. I've always been someone who would do really well in school and would see the patterns, and be it math, science, and English, and be able to always be in that top echelon in the class. And I remember when I was going through my dad's when my dad was getting a divorce, just in 2012 or 2013, I mean, I reached a point where I stopped caring. I had a full ride engineering scholarship. I had all these things going for me. And I realized that that was all going to end, that it didn't matter that I had a full ride engineering scholarship. It wasn't going to work out. And the divorce ended up killing it. And so,
And
yeah,
divorce does kill a lot, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
I've heard of children that don't finish high school. I was so, it really derails us, derails our kids.
It definitely does. And so that's why, you and I are such huge advocates for reconciliation or working towards at least an amicable divorce where you're not putting the kid through, or even just putting yourselves through the trials of family court. And if things don't work well within the marriage and it has to end, at least end it on a positive note, so that way you can look back in the future and say, I love this person at one point of time, but at least it didn't turn into this full scale war.
Well, yeah, if couples can do that and individuals can do that, that is the ideal scenario. But unfortunately, we see so many worst case scenarios in divorce. But
Definitely.